Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Canty, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. And today we are diving into Gary Zukav's latest book, Universal Human, and exploring what it means to evolve beyond the limitations of the past and step fully into our highest potential. I am passionate about helping individuals be and live their most authentic lives by discovering how to integrate spirit, mind, and body. And I love finding people who are out in the world doing just that. And Gary Zukav has been doing just that for decades. He has been a guiding light in the evolution of human consciousness, taking deep spiritual insights and making them accessible, practical, and truly life-changing. Through his best-selling books, especially for me, The Seed of the Soul, he's helped millions awaken to their soul's greatest potential and step into a life of authentic power. Gary is a master teacher and the author of four consecutive New York Times bestsellers, and as co-founder of the Seed of the Soul Institute with Linda Francis. His work is all about guiding us into this new era of spiritual awakening. And how can I introduce Gary Zukav without mentioning touching millions of lives through his 36 appearances on the Oprah Winfrey Show and Super Soul Sunday? Yeah, I am so excited for this conversation. I invite you to listen from your whole being. Just check in and be present, knowing that you will find something amazing for you and experience that 1 degree shift towards your spiritual awakening and living in your authentic power. Welcome, Gary Zukav. I am just super excited to have you here, and I would love to begin with your latest book, Universal Human. It reminded me when I saw the title of the quote from Socrates, attributed to Socrates, "I'm not an Athenian nor a Greek, but a citizen of the world." But you're inviting us to be a citizen of the universe. And I am super excited about that.
Me too.
The universal human. Can we start with what does it mean to be a universal human?
Well, a universal human is beyond nation, beyond religion, beyond culture, beyond ethnic group, beyond gender. A universal human is a citizen. A universal human is an adult citizen of the universe. We like to think of ourselves and have thought of ourselves as children of the universe. We are not. That no longer serves us. It no longer describes us, and it prevents us from our evolution. We are becoming adult citizens of the universe. And that means that our allegiance is to life. That's with a big L. Life first and everything else second. So for me, that would mean I am a male second. I'm a universal human first. My allegiance is to life first, and I'm a male second. I'm a universal human first, and I'm an American second. I'm a universal human first, and I'm a grandfather second. I'm a universal human first, and everything else second. Now that's a answer to your question. But the question to be understood needs to be, we need to say more. We're in the midst of a transformation of human consciousness now. It's from the old consciousness to a brand new consciousness. The old consciousness was limited to the five senses. In other words, if something couldn't be seen or heard or smelled or tasted or touched, it wasn't considered to be real. It was delusional or fantasy or illusion. Now, we're no longer confined to the five senses. The new consciousness is not limited by them, which means that we have the ability to experience ourselves as more than physical. And we do this in many ways. Everyone that's listening to this podcast, if they know I'm on it, is probably multisensory. Multisensory humans know that they're more than a mind and a body.
Yes.
That they have a larger part of themselves, an immortal part of themselves. A part that existed before they were born and that will exist after they die. That's your soul. You are a powerful and creative, compassionate, and loving spirit. This would make no sense at all to someone with the old consciousness. And about half of us still have the old consciousness, and it makes no sense to them. They have nothing in their experience that they can use to anchor these words. And so if they're polite, they'll say, well, that's interesting. And if they're not polite, they'll judge. But multisensory humans live these experiences now. And this is the big shift in our consciousness from 5 sensory limitations to a consciousness without those limitations. Also, 5 sensory humans understood power as the ability to manipulate and to control. From the perceptions of the 5 senses, that's the only thing power could be. Now we have a new understanding of power. It's the alignment of the personality with the soul. This new understanding of power is not a gift from the universe like the new consciousness is a gift from the universe. You don't have to do anything. It's emerging in hundreds of millions, billions of us. But the new understanding of power is a potential. It's a potential that comes with the new consciousness. And we have to create it, choice by choice. That's what my spiritual partner, Linda Francis, and I have written books about, given events about, created courses about.
Yes.
How to create authentic power.
Well, what is one of the biggest misconceptions we as the human species have had? We acknowledge we're moving forward, or many of us do, about power with the 5 sensory perception and this multi-sensory authentic power being in alignment with our soul. What is that gap? What's the gap, and how do we bridge that when we feel it coming for ourselves? We can feel that authentic power calling us.
What you feel is your potential calling you, love calling you, connection calling you, fullness calling you, creativity calling you, reverence calling you. And these you can listen to and follow the call, so to speak. That's how authentic power is created. Multisensory perception is not something you create. It's something that's emerging in you. Authentic power is something that you create or you don't. But the potential is there, and the potential was not there previously when we were 5 sensory. Now, I also want to make clear to the people who are listening to us that I don't expect you to accept any of the things that I say as so simply because I say them. Instead, I suggest that if you resonate with anything that I say, you experiment with it.
Yes.
Take it into your life and apply it. And if it creates what you want, experiment some more. And if it doesn't, let it go. And I suggest that you do this with everyone, that you not take anything that anyone says as so, simply because they've written a book or they've been on television or they have a congregation. Experiment with it yourself.
Yes. And I've been listening to your book, The Universal Human. I love sometimes. I love to read, but I love to listen at times in the early morning. And you are narrating your book, and it's really beautiful to listen to your voice speaking your words. So I really invite listeners to take that time to, if this resonates at all, to explore, in that simple way first. And they, at least for me, I often can feel that call or feel the invitation in someone else's experience. It's like it's consciousness kind of touching consciousness, and then saying, kind of expanding is what I would say. And I think that's the point of this podcast, or really expanding our reach out of our small world into a world where multisensory beings are living and really lighting the way for us. That's what your book is doing for me. And your first book, Seed of the Soul, really did for me as well.
Well, thank you. However, I would say that it's not other people that are leading us into anything. It's you deciding what you're going to do with
Yeah.
your creative capacity. Are you going to choose the part to act or speak or create, which is the same as acting or speaking with the energy of, say, anger or rage or outrage or resentment or judgment or superiority or inferiority or jealousy? These are all experiences of fear, and they are all painful when you learn
Yes.
how to experience what you are really experiencing. Most people don't know how to do that, and instead, when they feel anger or they feel jealousy, it is very painful, and even more painful than they might think. And in an attempt to mask that pain, they reach outward and try to change the world because they think that the world is the cause of their emotional pain. But it's not. The world activates internal dynamics in you, and those internal dynamics create your emotional experiences and shape your thoughts. Those that shape your thoughts and your experiences in ways that are painful and judgmental are parts of your personality that originate in fear. So for shorthand, we'll call them frightened parts of your personality.
Yes.
And you have other parts of your personality, and many of them originate in love. These are experiences of gratitude, contentment, patience, caring, awe of the universe. And they all feel good when you experience them. And when you speak or act on these parts of your personality, the energy, the impulse, the current of them, you create consequences for yourself, just as you create consequences for yourself when you speak in fear. But they're very different consequences. When you speak or act in fear, the consequences you create for yourself are painful and unhealthy and destructive. And when you speak or act with love, the consequences you create for yourself are healthy, beneficial, expansive, constructive. So, will you speak with love or will you speak with fear? This is the question that everyone comes up to every moment of every life. And most people are not aware of it. It was not possible to be aware of it when we were 5th century. It was possible to understand it. It was possible to read religious texts or scriptures and understand that there's some ways that were considered better than others, and some ways, especially if you live here in where I'm living, where we are in the United States, which is more of a Christian country than any other denomination, there's a strong judgment about how you choose. If you choose love, you get rewarded, you go to heaven. If you choose fear, you get punished, you go to hell. But the universe doesn't look that way. It doesn't look in terms of good or bad or better or worse. It looks in terms of cause and effect. If you participate in a cause, you will participate in the effect. The cause is always an intention. Now, an intention is a quality of consciousness. It's not a goal, like becoming a mother, going to Europe, learning to speak Italian, becoming a welder, having a business. Those are goals. But an intention is a quality of consciousness. And when you act or speak with love, you infuse your words and your deeds with that quality of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And when you speak or act with fear, you infuse your words and your deeds with that quality of consciousness. Being able to distinguish between these two and choose love, to speak or act with love, no matter what's going on inside of you or what's going on outside of you, is authentic power.
Mm. I love
Everything
that.
that everything that Linda and I have shared is about that, about the transformation of human consciousness, and about how to create authentic power.
Well, you mentioned awareness, and I think so. Let's see how awareness, being aware, because if we're not aware that we are in our five sensory state and we are reacting out of fear, the frightened bits of ourself, the frightened parts of ourself, and we've created that long enough that it's a little bit of a habit. We can see that around maybe friends, family, or certain situations that are happening around us. And is it intention that brings about an awareness when we decide to become aware, to break out of the five sensory, to become aware of intuition, that small, still voice versus the noise of what's happening outside of us that makes us want to react? Where does that fit in?
Well, you've asked several questions.
Yes.
We don't realize we're five sensory and decide to become multisensory. That's a gift. That's the transformation in human consciousness that's happening species-wide
Yeah.
right now. And many of us are simply becoming more aware in ways that it's not a matter of just the content of awareness, but we have more ways that we can be aware in.
Yeah.
That's multisensory perception. Awareness does not change you. Choice changes you. You can be aware that you're in a frightened part of your personality. That's not enough to change you at all.
Okay.
Instead, when you are aware that you are in a frightened part of your personality, pardon me, and I'll tell you how in a moment. That's emotional awareness. When you are aware that you're in a frightened part of your personality, you can, in that moment, use your free will to move your attention into a loving part of your personality, into a time when you were loved and loving and or loved, and you knew it. Then choose to speak or act from that part of your personality while you are experiencing the frightened part of your personality with its painful physical sensations and its judgmental thoughts. That's the moment of creating authentic power. And when you do that again and again, you move beyond the control of that part of your personality that is angry or jealous or vengeful or suicidal or manic or despondent. And as you create authentic power in this way, repeatedly, it begins to lose its power over you. It still comes, it still hurts, it still thinks the same kind of thoughts, but it doesn't penetrate you as deeply as it did before. It begins to run off of you, like water off the feathers of a duck.
Yeah, yeah.
And you begin to move and speak and act with less fear and more love by your choice. You create authentic power choice by choice, decision by decision. And the choices are always the same. There's two of them, love and fear.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's always wisdom in each choice.
Yes. Mm. That is so beautifully put. Thank you. And you mentioned emotional awareness, and I would love to hear you speak a little bit about that. And that's what you are speaking about. But you were going to go into a little more.
Emotional awareness is a tool. It's
Okay.
one of the tools of creating authentic power.
Yes.
Um, when you're feeling an emotion, put let's start with a painful emotion: fear, shock, judgment, rage,
Mm.
anger. Put your attention inside yourself. Now, listen to what I said so you don't gloss over it. Because most people, when they're feeling a painful emotion, put their attention on the world.
Yes. Right.
I'm saying that to create authentic power, put your attention inside yourself
Mhm.
and put it into specific areas in your body. For example, your throat area, or your chest area, or your solar plexus area, which is directly below your ribs. And look for physical sensations there, not feelings good, feelings bad, sad, happy, despondent, but physical sensations: aching, throbbing, stinging, stabbing, burning, contracting. These are painful physical sensations, and you will find them when you look for them. Put your attention, for example, in your chest area and look for those, for any painful physical sensations that are there, so that you'll be able to identify them. You can say, for example, I'll just make this up. I have a pain in the upper right quarter of my chest. And I feel like a band is constricting, tightening around my chest horizontally. And in my solar plexus, I'm feeling a burning across the top of my entire solar plexus area. And in my throat, I'm feeling a constriction in my throat,
Mm.
about the size of a ping pong ball, maybe less, half the size of a ping pong ball. And it hurts. And it's low in my throat, say just above my collarbone. When you can speak like this and describe what you're feeling, you are emotionally literate. Until then, you are emotionally illiterate. If all you can say is, I'm happy, or I'm sad, or wow, that hurt, you're doing yourself and others no good
Mm.
because you don't change. So developing emotional awareness is important because the heart is at the heart of creating authentic power, which means that your emotions are very important in creating authentic power. And by the way, there are a few people who claim or feel that they don't feel anything. These people are emotionally ignorant. They simply are numb. I don't say that in a derogatory way. Ignorance for five sensory humans is ignorance of facts. Ignorance for multisensory humans is ignorance of internal dynamics and what is happening inside themselves.
Mm.
But emotional awareness informs you when frightened parts of your personality are active and when loving parts of your personality are active.
Mm.
And this is good to know because, as I mentioned, when you act on a frightened part of your personality, you create painful, destructive consequences. And when you act or speak from a loving part of your personality, you create the opposite. So by being able to distinguish between these two, you put yourself in a position to choose. When we
Mm.
were five sensory, if anger came up in you, you felt anger. You couldn't distinguish what the frightened part of your personality was feeling from what you are feeling. Now we can, and we
Mm.
can choose. And it's in that choice that we can transform our lives or not.
Well, and what it reminded me of when you were speaking is what I talk about a lot is being curious instead of judgmental. It's curious, like what is this? Like the anger, instead of looking out there. And when you were speaking about your pretend, symptoms, it was like to be able to speak about what is happening in our bodies that way takes a curiosity, takes staying with it, and takes being able to discern the where is it, how big is it, what's the sensation instead of any sensation. And we have to be curious. For me, that's how I put it, instead of judgmental, because as soon as we're judgmental, I shouldn't be angry, I shouldn't be feeling this way. We shut ourselves down, and I feel like we stay like repressed.
It might be more accurate if you would make a we statement like that into an I statement.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
what would that
and
be?
I do, that's my experience. That's how I really get to experience myself, is being curious and loving the parts of me that get, it's like, oh, my stomach, I kind of do the contracting thing. It's like, oh, look at me shrinking while I'm feeling shameful or feeling
Yes,
embarrassed or whatever that is.
it's not you that's shrinking or feeling embarrassed or feeling ashamed. It's a frightened part of your personality,
Yes.
and you do not have to believe it or act on it.
Well, that's what the
And
curiosity for me does. It's like, look at that. That's so
yes,
interesting that the frightened parts are doing that. And then I can choose, as you say.
well, this is more than, uh, yes, what you're saying is correct. Um, Curiosity is a way. I talked about challenging a frightened part of the personality,
Yeah.
and that means moving beyond its control, not changing it, judging it, trying to heal it, but experiencing it fully and intimately and choosing not to act on it while you're feeling it.
Mm.
You say, in the way you look at it, you become curious when that happens. And if you decide to look inside, that is the choice that keeps you from acting on that frightened part of your personality. Am I
Okay.
correct in what you're saying?
Yeah.
So, but curiosity is not the opposite of fear. Love is the opposite of fear. It's
Yeah.
curiosity, in your case, calling your interest where you plan to put your attention as curious. But it's the operative dynamic is experiencing fear as intimately as you can, and
Hmm.
you can experience it very intimately. And in that moment, choosing to move your attention into a loving, pardon me, a loving part of your personality. And it's not a matter of why am I feeling this? Uh, you are feeling it because a frightened part of your personality is active.
Yeah.
And that part has been activated by an event in the world.
Mm.
And you know now, because of our talk, because of your reading, because of your life, that trying to change the world will not change what you're feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Unless, unless you can temporarily satisfy the demands of a frightened part of your personality. For example, you say, I want to meet the right person in my life. And that's really important to me. And then you meet someone that you think is, and you're happy. You're
Mm.
exhilarated. You feel good in every way. And then maybe 3 or 4 months later, that person says, I've been thinking about this and I changed my mind. I don't want to be with you anymore. In fact, I found someone else that I'd rather be with, and I'm going to do that tonight. And I'm going to move over there. And you plummet into pain,
Mm.
into despair. That's because happiness, the first part was an experience of happiness. Happiness depends upon the world.
Mm.
But what we're talking about when I talk about creating authentic power is the experience of joy.
Yeah.
That's independent of what happens in the world. And that's what multisensory humans feel the call toward. Feel that's what they want to do. And curiosity for me it's a good word because for you it means it's how you shift your attention. But
Mm.
most people think of curiosity in intellectual terms. Well, that's interesting. Why do these bugs have 4 legs and those bugs have 6 legs? Or why, when I touch this plant that's got 3 leaves, do I itch later on and where I touched it? And these all have empirical 5 sensory answers. But it will not do you any good to say, why am I angry now? That will just take you back to the world, and that's not changing yourself. Changing yourself creates real power, authentic power.
No, yeah, I agree about asking why for me personally. For me, what helps is as I'm feeling anger, it is really, I just loved what you described so specifically, finding it. What does it feel like? Where is it? What is that sensation? Naming it, being with it, because it is. It's it's having its being. And as for me, as I name it, as I do what you do, when you were giving us that example, I actually can, for me, I love it. Like I love it, which is me, which is being, which is happening. And that is, I don't know, like the process, but that's the activation of love, of the loving parts of my personality. It wants to just hug and take care, and then the sensation for me is dissolving. It's as I put my attention on the pit in my stomach, it's dissolving. Well, sometimes it takes time to activate. Is that a good word that you use? The loving parts of my personality, and feel that love and be in the loving parts of my personality, which now I'm thinking is authentic power.
No. I mean, yes, yes, as far as you've gone, choosing to act from a loving part of your personality while you are experiencing intimately a frightened part of your personality is the moment of creating authentic power.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Authentic power is not something you find or fall into or it attracts you. You create it
Mm,
or you don't, choice by choice, decision by decision.
mm. Yeah, we're creating authentic power with our choices and decisions moment by moment.
Or you are pursuing external power with your decisions moment by moment, attempting to change the world with manipulation and control.
Yeah.
You're doing one or the other. If you're not aware of which one it is, it's fear.
Ah,
Every unconscious intention is an intention of fear.
mm,
You cannot create love unconsciously. It requires consciousness, conscious intention.
mm.
Most people live their lives creating painful consequences unconsciously. And when they encounter those consequences, they again become enraged, righteous, judgmental, suicidal, whatever frightened part they're experiencing, and they create more of the same. The same is called karma in the East, more
Mm.
consequences of the same quality. And when they encounter those, they do the same, and again and again and again and again. And you can do this all month. You can do this all year. You can do this your entire life.
Yeah.
You can do this for 400 lifetimes. This is what the Buddhists call the wheel of suffering, of
Yeah.
samsara. And that's how most 5 sensory humans lived their lives and what they created in them. Now we're multisensory.
Mm.
And we can create differently with our new consciousness. Everything about the human species now is changing. Everything about its consciousness. Its values are changing.
Yeah.
Its values are becoming the values of the soul: harmony, cooperation, sharing, and reverence for life. Its goals are becoming the goals of the soul. An authentically powerful personality is the characteristics of an authentically powerful personality are humbleness,
Yeah.
clarity, forgiveness, and love. This is where our consciousness is sort of directing us, enabling us to go. We have to decide if we're going to go there because we decide where we're going to go moment by moment,
Yeah.
fear or love. So it's a matter of how we choose to learn wisdom while we are learning. In other words, it's a matter of what experiences we are going to create while we are learning. That's the choice that we always have before us. And every choice has wisdom in it.
Absolutely. I want to go back to something you said about the unconscious, that anything that is in, and I'm not sure, I'm sorry if you said subconscious or unconscious, is fear-based.
You don't create love.
Right.
Love is. What does that mean? The universe is love.
Yeah.
Everything in it is love. Eventually, you'll come to understand that love heals everything, and love is all there is. What can change is your awareness. When you choose to experience, to cultivate the loving parts of your personality, you do not increase the love in the world. That's meaningless. The universe is love.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you expand your awareness to experience more of it. And that is spiritual growth. And that changes everything, which is another way of saying you change everything. You create your experiences of the world with your choices.
Yes, we do. I do. So if I am repeating habits unconsciously, that's from this fear-based parts of my personality.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful.
But it is. And the power is yours
Yeah.
to choose. Now, don't misunderstand the word conscious and unconscious. When you're addicted to something, you're aware of it.
Yes.
When you drink again, eat again, gamble again, have sex again, watch pornography again, buy more shoes again, whatever it is that's a part of you that's out of control, you're
Yeah.
conscious of doing that.
Yeah.
But still, a frightened part of your personality is controlling what you're doing. And you may even hate what you're doing or hate yourself for doing it, but you're still doing it. That's how strong a frightened part of your personality can be. Those are your addictions. Those are your greatest inadequacies. Those are the parts of your personality that are most in control of the world. But they are frightened parts of your personality like any other. And like any other, you can challenge them and move beyond their control. The book that you mentioned, The Seat of the Soul, has a chapter on addiction. That addiction is sexual addiction, but it could be addiction to food, to drugs, to alcohol, to nicotine. The dynamics are the same.
Yeah. Well, your books are so, and your See the Soul Institute and all the work that you've done yourself and with Linda have been really empowering us, myself and others, to make these choices and to free ourselves from suffering. And many of us say there's pain being in this body, in this time space continuum, but suffering is generally optional unless it is controlling us. We can, you're giving us that power, authentic power, to really relieve ourselves from suffering. And I think,
Well, can I
yeah, yeah.
interrupt for a moment? I am not. I'm not giving you
No,
any
yes.
power.
It's
And
not
all,
you giving power. You are reminding us with your words, your institute, your collaborations, your
thank you.
commitments. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. We are, by the way, we're changing now from the Authentic Power Institute into a nonprofit foundation for the universal human. And we're doing that for continuity because Linda's soul has already left the Earth School,
Yeah.
and mine will pretty soon. I'll be on my way. And we want to ensure that there is a place where people can come, like a well, to drink when they're thirsty. And what they'll drink there, if they're interested, are all the things they can learn about authentic power, that multisensory perception, how to create authentic power, spiritual partnerships, what they are and how they work. So it'll probably be, I'm going to guess a year from now, or whenever you're listening to this podcast, start to count there. But eventually, we're going to, when you go to our website, which is now Seat of the Soul, it will take you to the Foundation for the Universal Human. But it's the same. You are the
Yes.
same.
Yes.
We are the same. The Earth School is the same, and human consciousness is different. That's what it's all about. It's not the same that it was when my parents had me as a child. It's not the same as it was just 50 or 60 or 70 years ago. And for many people, it is.
Mm.
But within a very short time, another century and a half, all of us will be multisensory. But we will not all be authentically powerful because we have to create that.
Ah, okay.
Now,
I get that.
you began our talk by asking about the universal human.
Yeah.
The universal human is the next phase in human evolution. It's calling us even while the second phase is in process of arriving. We are transitioning from a five-sensory species to a multi-sensory species. That's the big news. That's the headliner now. This has never happened before. We've been five-sensory for 300,000 years, or whenever you started counting. We are becoming multi-sensory. Multi-sensory perception is a bridging consciousness.
Mm.
It connects. It's a bridging consciousness between five-sensory consciousness and the consciousness of the universal human. We are becoming multi-sensory. But even as we are, we feel the pull of more, the pull of something. Five-sensory humans look at themselves as personalities. That's how they identify themselves.
Mm.
Multi-sensory humans look at themselves as souls. That's how they identify themselves.
Yeah.
Universal humans identify with life. Big L. That's how they identify themselves. There aren't any universal humans. Well, there aren't many. But universal humans emerge from authentically powerful multisensory humans. That's why this context is important. If you jump right into it, what is a universal human? That's helpful. And I gave you that description. And where does it come from? Well, it comes, the experience, the consciousness, the next step in human evolution is universal humanity, the universal human, even while we're becoming multisensory humans. You might say that universal human is the final step in the evolution of human.
Mm.
Beyond human lie countless realms of experience and evolution that are beyond what we could describe or imagine or experience. But they're real, and it's that reality of the universal human that's beginning to appeal to us, to call to us. How do you do it? You create authentic power. You're in the Earth School. You have a personality. The two are identical. You can't be in the Earth School, which is this realm of time and space and matter and duality and fear, without a personality. And every personality has loving parts and frightened parts,
Yeah.
everyone. And this domain of duality is one in which we learn the most fundamental of all abilities concerning spiritual growth, and that is choice. We begin to experience choice, our creative capacity, and the extent to which we are responsible for what we create, which is totally. Without that, no further development is possible. The Earth School is a precious place. You might say that physical matter is the densest level of energy, but it's holy, it's sacred, it must be honored, it must be revered, including you and your evolution in it.
Mm.
Your soul is evolving in eternity. Your personality is maturing in time. All of this is happening at the same time, except beyond the Earth School. There is no time. Well, oh, and by the way, I have good news. I have a podcast now. It's called the Gary Zukav Podcast. And so I suggest that if you or any of our listeners are interested or hearing more of what you and I are discussing now, you can find it everywhere. It's just 20 minutes every Monday, easy to listen to on your drive to work or whatever you're doing in the morning.
Mm. And
And
I can vouch for that. I've listened.
well, have you? Have you?
Oh
Good.
yeah, of course. I'm a big fan, Gary. I'm a bit for a long time. For a long time. Your words speak
Oh,
to me. It was the first book, Seed of the Soul, really diving into that idea of who we really are. And for
mhm.
many of us, we've had that call, that it's not even a call, it's a knowing, an inkling, but if we're not if when I was in my upbringing, it wasn't my experience of being my soul, of my soul being the truth of who I was, and this being, we have a car, we have a house. This is my car. This is how I get around. This is the stuff that I have, but that is precious, temple. It's my temple where my soul resides in this moment. And it wasn't honored in that way. So the rest of my childhood was spent fitting into the perspective of what was popular, which I grew up in a Catholic grade school and high school, and it was for me strange ideas that there's a heaven and a hell and a judging God and different things. And it's so freeing. And that was early on in my spiritual journey in the 90s, early 90 maybe, when I read Seed of the Soul. And it's like somebody has written what I'm thinking or what I can't put into words.
Mm.
Now it's in words, and now there's a relationship. And so I just segued into relationship because I really want you to talk about relationships as a multi-sensory or universal human for a moment, if you have time. But that idea of relating and relationship, and that's what you, as a spiritual guide or teacher, people can see their reflection. And it's so beautiful to see ourselves
Mm.
as a soul, to be recognized. It's like, oh yeah, there you are. The truth of your being, who you are, shining through this wonderful body and this wonderful time and this wonderful event or this not so wonderful event, in this really crappy situation that we find ourselves in. It's like, oh, there's the soul just shining through, and then to choose love, to choose authentic too. And you said create. I like that. I will honor that. I will use that. Now create authentic power and know that we are able to choose that instead of being uh, controlled by the frightened parts of our personality.
That is the heart of it, Elizabeth.
Mm.
You have put your finger on it exactly.
Mm,
That is our path. That is our evolutionary requirement now to
yeah.
create authentic power.
Oh, I love that. And then just for a minute, if you can talk, the idea, I think we have such a high divorce rate and we're relating, we have relationships with everyone, including ourselves and our dogs and the earth and the garden and the food and but relationships being spiritual partnerships. I've never heard it like that, but I've always treated it like that. That's what it is to me. It's a spiritual partnership. Would you speak just for a moment about that?
A spiritual partnership is a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. It's a new relationship dynamic. It's a new archetype. An archetype is a collective human idea. Mother, father, priest, warrior, those are all archetypes. The archetype of spiritual partnership didn't exist before for 5th-century humans.
Mhm.
Why should it? The idea of a relationship, a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth would have no value for them. But as we become multisensory, spiritual partnership becomes more and more appealing. And spiritual partnership is now replacing every other form of relationship in
Yeah.
the human experience. Business relationships, familial relationships, marriage relationships. Spiritual partners know that they have souls. Each one knows that he or she has a soul. And they know that they have a reason for being together. And that reason has to do with their souls. They know that each of them is creating authentic power, that that is the path they are on. Sooner or later, they'll recognize it. And many of them are recognizing it. But a spiritual partner cannot create authentic power for anyone else. And no one else can create authentic power for him or for her. But you can assist one another. You
Yeah.
can support one another. When a frightened part of your personality is active, friends will try to make it feel better. Someone gets a divorce and they'll say, oh, you're a good-looking girl. This isn't going to last long. Lots of people are interested in you. You've got a brilliant future ahead of you. In fact, there's someone in the office that's been asking about you, and I'll put you to that kind of attempt from a frightened part of the personality to soothe or assuage the pain of the frightened part of another personality.
Mm.
Spiritual partners don't do that. They ask helpful questions like, what is your intention in saying what you just said? Where are you feeling that? In which of your 7 energy processing centers are you feeling that? And what are you feeling? Or where did that come from, what you just said? They will help you recognize what you are, a creative spirit, and that you have a choice between love and fear. And what that choice is right now, not in a way that's lecturing or superior. In order to be a spiritual partner, you have to love your spiritual partner. When Linda and I first started giving events, students would talk to each other and they'd say, well, what's your intention? Where are you feeling that? And they were doing it by rote. They were doing their best. But if you don't care about the answer, why ask the question? You have to love the person you're with. And then all things are possible, provided you have commitment and courage and compassion, and you're willing to use conscious communications and actions. Those are the authentic power guidelines. There are specific guidelines under each of those, and you can find them. We have a course, the Authentic Power Guidelines, that
Good.
will spell these out.
Mm.
So spiritual partnerships are appearing everywhere, and they're not dyadic relationships. They're not male and female. And by the way, when I say male and female, I'm not talking about genitals. I'm talking about energy. I'm talking about gender. Um, so same-sex couples, same-sex communities have the same dynamics.
Yeah.
These dynamics are human dynamics, and everyone that's human is beginning to experience them. So I'll say just a few more words about spiritual partnership, and then you can read the book called Spiritual Partnership.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know
by
there was a book. I know there's a chapter on it because I just heard it.
no, there's a
Beautiful.
book called Spiritual Partnership. I wrote
Oh,
it,
beautiful.
and there are three dynamics of spiritual partnership. One of them is that spiritual partners choose their roles in the partnership.
Mm.
Say in a dyadic relationship, those roles are defined in the past, were previously defined by society, by tradition, and by culture, and by consciousness. Um, Another way of looking at the new consciousness is the emergence of the new female and the new male.
Mm.
The old female was fulfilled by having and by bearing and raising children, and the old male was fulfilled by providing and protecting. Now, uh, individuals in a partnership are not limited in any way except by their own interest and aptitudes. So the new female can bear and raise children, and while she's doing it, she can also be the new female. She can decide to run a company or fly a 747 or be in the army or be a nanny. She can be any of the things that she was expected to be before and anything else she desires and wants to be. And for a male was previously assumed to be capable of doing anything that he wanted to do within his the limits of his abilities and aptitudes. But in addition to that, now the new male is tender. The new male is sensitive. The new male cares about the elderly and the young. The new male is intuitive. You can see the new male everywhere now. You can see them in grocery stores pushing strollers. You can see them in airports in the concourse, walking up and down, patting infants on their shoulders.
Yeah.
The new male doesn't need a female to bring tenderness and intuition and care and love into his life. He is those things. And the new female doesn't need a male to provide for her or buy her a new Mercedes, anything else she wants to get or doesn't want to get. She can do it herself, and she does. She's unstoppable.
Mm.
All of this is part of spiritual partnership in the new consciousness that we're in now.
Yeah.
So I hope that this has given you and our listeners and viewers some things to consider, not to be with. Don't just be with them. Consider them to the extent that they're intellectual for you, but consider them long enough to begin to experience them.
Mm.
See what they feel like.
It feels
And
good.
yes, it does. It's very good.
You
It's your
know,
own.
it feels like freedom.
It is. Freedom from fear, freedom from fear, freedom from jealousy, freedom from resentment, freedom from demands of others, freedoms from your own demands for yourself.
Yeah.
In other words, a life of consciously choosing love moment by moment, even when fear is present moment by moment.
Yeah.
That's a powerful life. That's an authentically powerful life.
Yes. Yes. Oh, thank you, 𝘀𝗵𝗃. That was just a beautiful insight into your world and what is possible for humanity in this next iteration.
And I say that it's not my world I'm describing. It's the world that is emerging now
Yeah.
in all of us. Don't look to me as an example of any of the things I've said. Look inside yourself and see what you find there. See, based on what you find there and experience there, what your choices will be in the future.
Mm.
And it's not just for this iteration of humanity. It is for, let me put it this way. Our consciousness, multisensory perception, is taking us to many surprising and previously unimaginable experiences. One of them is that there is only now. Every choice that you make now. Don't try to make choices in the future. There is no such thing. Every choice you make will be now. So don't ask yourself when you're going to start creating authentic power. Do it or don't. Sooner or later, you will, because this is our evolutionary path, and because sooner or later the pain in your life will become unbearable.
Mm.
And that is the point at which most people open themselves to a spiritual alternative. Why wait? Why not do it now? You're going to do it now whenever you do it.
Yes, you're going to do it now whenever you do it. So.
We'll do it now.
Oh my gosh. It's so true. It's so true. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for being with me today, for being with everyone listening. And I just want them one more time. I don't want them to be confused, because your website right now in this moment is seatofthesoul.com.
.com. And it always will be in the future, which doesn't exist, pardon me. But it always will be that, as long as we have a website, because when you type seatofthesoul.com, it will direct you to universalhuman.org.
Okay, yes,
So
that's
you
what I
need
was getting to.
Yes, yes, you can always come there.
Oh, beautiful.
And you're always welcome.
Yes, and the teachings are amazing. And there's so many things we didn't cover. I want people to realize, the intuition, the non-physical teachers, there's so much excitement for me in this, in the possibilities that are evolving right now. Right now, they're here.
They are. We've created beautiful, powerful courses, online self-paced courses on all of the things that you've mentioned, and you can find them at seatofthesoul.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary, for being with me, and you've been with me for a long time.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
It's a joy, Elizabeth. It's good to meet you and to have this time to talk, and let's stay in touch, okay?
Absolutely. And yeah, all the best, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What an incredible interview with Gary Zukav, who is just the most amazing presence to be with. I invite you all to check out his website, check out his courses, and definitely check out his book, a new book, Universal Human. It's a couple of years out, but it is exciting to be in this energy of this shift that is happening. And as we said right there at the end, you're going to choose it anyway. Choose now. Authentic power. Create authentic power and stand in your love and feel the energy of being a universal human. And if you like this, please hit the like button and share it with a friend. Subscribe and you'll know when the next interviews are coming out. And I just hope you laugh, love, and live enlightened every single day, because that is the possibility for you, to be in love every single day, even, as Gary mentioned, when there's pain, even when there's circumstances that feel like we wouldn't want. We can be in them and in love.